Imagine you were born into a world where your people have lived for thousands of years. Your ancestors walked these forests. Your grandparents were born here. Your parents died here. Then, in your lifetime, that world, your entire world, is stolen from you. Tecumseh was born in 1768 in the Ohio River Valley. He was Shawnee. He was born into a nation that had existed for centuries. The Shawnee people had lived, hunted, farmed, and thrived in the lands of the Ohio River Valley and beyond. But Tecumseh was born into a dying world. Tecumseh grew up watching American settlers destroy his world. He watched his tribe pushed westward, mile after mile. He watched his ancestral lands taken. He watched his people dying from disease and warfare. He watched the American government break treaty after treaty with his people. The Americans came like a flood. They took our lands, they broke their promises, they brought disease, they brought warfare, they threatened everything we were and everything we had. And Tecumseh decided to fight back, not just for his tribe, but for all Native American nations. He decided to attempt something that no Native American leader had ever successfully accomplished: unite all the tribes into one confederacy, one nation, one voice. This is the story of Tecumseh, a remarkable man, a brilliant leader, and one of the most important figures in North American history, who has been almost completely erased from American consciousness. This is the story of a man who tried to save his people, a story of vision, strategy, alliances, warfare, and ultimately, tragedy. This is the forgotten story of Tecumseh. Tecumseh's father was a Shawnee war chief named Pucksinwah. His mother was a Shawnee woman named Methowaska. Tecumseh grew up in a family of warriors and leaders, but his childhood was tragic. In 1774, when Tecumseh was only 6 years old, his father was killed in battle, one of many casualties in the escalating conflicts between Native Americans and American settlers. Tecumseh never knew his father. His only knowledge of his father came through stories told by his mother and older siblings. Stories of a great warrior, stories of a leader, stories of a man who fought to protect his people. Tecumseh's father died when he was young, but the memory of his father, a great warrior, shaped everything Tecumseh would become. He carried the legacy of his father, the desire to be like him, the commitment to fight for his people. Tecumseh was raised by his mother, who was a strong woman. She taught him survival skills, cultural knowledge, and the values of the Shawnee people. His older siblings, particularly his brother Chillicothe, also raised him and mentored him. But the greatest influence on Tecumseh's childhood came not from his family, but from the world around him. As Tecumseh grew from a child to a teenager to a young man, he watched his world being systematically destroyed. The Americans came in increasing numbers. They settled our hunting grounds. They built fortifications. They brought conflict. The Shawnee people were pushed further and further west. Our lands were taken. Our way of life was threatened. Tecumseh was a teenager during the American Revolution. He watched as the war became an opportunity for American settlers to expand westward, claiming Native American lands while the British were fighting in the east. The revolution was supposed to be about freedom and independence, but for Native Americans, it meant the freedom of Americans to expand and seize their lands. By the time Tecumseh was a young man in the 1790s, he had witnessed 30 years of American encroachment. He had seen his people pushed westward again and again. He had seen warriors die. He had seen villages abandoned. He had seen the slow, inexorable destruction of Native American nations. I saw what was happening to our people. We were being destroyed, tribe by tribe, village by village. The Americans took our lands. They broke their treaties. They killed our warriors. We were being erased from this land that was ours since before memory. In his late 20s, Tecumseh came to a realization that would define his life and shape North American history. Individual tribes could not resist American expansion. They were being defeated one by one. But united, if all the tribes could stand together, they might have a chance. This realization would drive everything he did for the rest of his life. In the 1790s and early 1800s, Tecumseh began his great project, the unification of Native American tribes into a single confederacy. It was a revolutionary idea, perhaps the most ambitious political project in Native American history. For centuries, Native American tribes had been fiercely independent. Each tribe had its own government, its own leadership, its own way of life. Tribes often fought each other. They had different languages, different customs, different alliances. The idea of creating a unified confederacy of all tribes was unprecedented. No leader had ever successfully done it.
But Tecumseh believed it was the only way to survive. Brothers, listen to me. The Americans come like a flood. There are more of them every year. They take our lands. They break their promises. They destroy us one tribe at a time. Individually, we cannot stop them. But united, if every tribe stands together as one people, we can resist. We can defend our lands. We can preserve our way of life. We must stop thinking of ourselves as separate tribes and start thinking of ourselves as one Native American nation. In the 1790s and early 1800s, Tecumseh traveled constantly. He traveled thousands of miles on foot and by canoe. He visited tribes from the Great Lakes region to the Gulf of Mexico. He spoke to the Miami. He spoke to the Potawatomi. He spoke to the Delaware. He spoke to the Creek, the Cherokee, the Shawnee, the Kickapoo, the Wyandot, and dozens of other tribes. Everywhere he went, Tecumseh made the same argument: unity or extinction, together or defeated separately. And everywhere he went, he was remarkably successful. Tribe after tribe agreed to join his confederacy. Warriors who had once been enemies of other tribes now united under Tecumseh's vision. Tecumseh had a natural gift for leadership. He was intelligent. He was a skilled orator. He was charismatic. He could inspire people. He could make them believe in his vision. But he also had something more important. He was right. The tribes understood, as Tecumseh understood, that they were facing extinction. American expansion was relentless. The only possible response was unified resistance.
Tecumseh could speak for hours. His voice was powerful. His words were compelling. He could make warriors want to fight. He could make leaders want to join his confederation. He was the greatest orator among the Native American peoples. By 1810-1811, Tecumseh had accomplished something remarkable. He had united more Native American tribes than any leader in generations. He had created a confederacy that spanned from the Great Lakes to the Gulf of Mexico. It included dozens of tribes. Thousands of warriors followed him. The British, who were observing these developments with great interest, recognized what Tecumseh had accomplished. They saw a powerful Native American confederacy that could be valuable as an ally in any conflict with America. Tecumseh's brother, called the Prophet, or Tenskwatawa, played an important role in the movement. The Prophet claimed to have spiritual visions and claimed to be a messenger from the Great Spirit. He preached a return to traditional Native American ways and rejection of American goods and customs. While some historians credit the Prophet with religious inspiration for the movement, most scholars agree that Tecumseh was the true leader and strategist. The Prophet was a useful ally and provided spiritual legitimacy, but Tecumseh was the military and political genius behind the Confederacy.
By 1811-1812, Tecumseh faced a strategic reality. Even with the largest Native American confederacy in generations, he was still outnumbered and outgunned compared to the United States. The American government was unwilling to respect Native American sovereignty. The American settlers were pushing westward relentlessly. American military forces could be mobilized against any Native American resistance. Tecumseh needed an ally with comparable military power, and there was one available: Britain. Britain and America were heading toward war, the War of 1812. Britain was already fighting France in Europe. Britain was looking for allies who could fight America in North America. Tecumseh had a powerful Native American confederacy. Britain had weapons, ammunition, military advisors, and naval power. It was a strategic match. We do not love the British, but the British are enemies of the Americans, and the Americans are our mortal enemies. To survive, we must have weapons and support. The British can provide these things. If we help Britain fight America, Britain will help us defend our lands. This is strategy.
This is survival.
In 1811-1812, Tecumseh made an alliance with Britain. The British would supply weapons, ammunition, and military advisors. Tecumseh's Confederacy would fight America alongside British forces. For Tecumseh, this was not a betrayal or a difficult choice. It was simple pragmatism. You ally with your enemy's enemy to fight your mortal enemy. Some American historians have portrayed Tecumseh's alliance with Britain as a sign that he was un-American or traitorous, but this misses the point entirely. Tecumseh was not un-American, he was pre-American. He was fighting for Native American independence and sovereignty. America, in Tecumseh's view, was the colonizer and aggressor. Britain was a tactical ally. Before the formal War of 1812 began, Tecumseh's Confederacy was already in conflict with American forces. In November 1811, while Tecumseh was away on a diplomatic mission, American military forces attacked Tecumseh's main village at Prophetstown on the Wabash River in Indiana. The attack is known as the Battle of Tippecanoe. The Prophet, left in charge, led the defense of the village. The battle was bloody and fierce. Native American warriors fought desperately to defend their homes and families. Ultimately, American forces prevailed. The village was destroyed. The Prophet's authority was damaged. He had been promised victory by the Great Spirit, but the Americans had defeated him. Tippecanoe was a disaster for our people. Our village was destroyed, warriors were killed. The confidence of our people was shaken. The Americans proved that they could defeat us in battle. The Battle of Tippecanoe was a military defeat for Tecumseh's Confederacy, but it also validated Tecumseh's argument. Individual tribes or even a single village could not resist American military power. Only a unified Confederacy with powerful allies could have a chance. After Tippecanoe, Tecumseh's commitment to the Confederacy and to alliance with Britain became stronger, not weaker.
When the War of 1812 officially began in June 1812, Tecumseh was ready. For over 2 years, from June 1812 until October 1813, Tecumseh led Native American warriors in warfare against American forces. He fought alongside British commanders and soldiers. Tecumseh was not just a military leader in the sense of commanding warriors in battle. He was a strategist. He understood tactics. He coordinated with British commanders. He planned campaigns. He positioned forces strategically. He was, in many ways, a professional military officer, the equal of any officer in the American or British armies. Tecumseh understood warfare. He understood strategy. He could lead men into battle. He could coordinate attacks with British forces. He was a brilliant military mind. Many American officers who faced him in battle acknowledged his tactical skill and the respect his warriors had for him. Tecumseh achieved military victories. He inspired his warriors to fight with courage and effectiveness. He coordinated with British commanders to plan campaigns. But America was too powerful. America had unlimited access to supplies. America had unlimited manpower. America had a powerful navy. America could replace losses. Tecumseh's Confederacy could not. By 1813, the situation was becoming desperate for Tecumseh and his Confederacy. The War of 1812 was not going well for Britain. British forces in Canada were under pressure. British support for Tecumseh was decreasing. American forces were pushing north and west. The noose was tightening.
In October 1813, the situation came to a climax. American forces, under the command of General William Henry Harrison, were pursuing British and Native American forces into Canada. They were pursuing Tecumseh's Confederacy. On October 5, 1813, these forces met in battle along the Thames River in Ontario, Canada. This battle is known as the Battle of the Thames. The Battle of the Thames was chaotic and brutal. British forces, already demoralized and in retreat, didn't fight as effectively as they might have. Native American warriors fought fiercely, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. American forces, pursuing aggressively, overwhelmed the defenders. In the chaos of the battle, Tecumseh was killed. The exact circumstances of his death are unclear and disputed. Some accounts say he was shot by an American soldier during the fighting. Some accounts say he died fighting to the last moment. Some accounts suggest that after his death, his body was mutilated. a sign of the hatred and fear Americans felt toward him. What is certain, Tecumseh died on October 5, 1813, at the Battle of the Thames. Tecumseh died fighting. He died trying to lead his people. He died before the complete defeat of his Confederacy and his vision. He died as a warrior, on the battlefield, fighting to the last moment.
With Tecumseh's death, something fundamental collapsed. Not just a military force, but a vision, a dream, a hope. Tecumseh's been the glue holding the Confederacy together. His charisma, his leadership, his strategic vision, these had unified dozens of tribes who had never been unified before. When he died, that unity dissolved. Without Tecumseh, the Confederacy fell apart within days. The tribes had been unified around Tecumseh's vision and his leadership. Without him, they lost their reason for unity. Different tribes had different interests. Different tribes had different homelands. Without Tecumseh to hold them together, they returned to being independent. The British, facing military difficulties in other theaters and having already lost many of their Native American allies, reduced their commitment to the fight in North America. British support for Native Americans declined. By 1815, when the War of 1812 ended, the great Native American Confederacy that Tecumseh had built was gone. It had existed for less than a decade, but it had been the most powerful unified Native American force in generations. American expansion accelerated after Tecumseh's death. With the unified resistance gone, with the British no longer supporting Native Americans, the path westward was clear. The lands that Tecumseh had tried to preserve were lost. The Native American nations that Tecumseh had tried to unite were defeated individually by American expansion.
In the decades following Tecumseh's death, Native Americans were systematically removed from their ancestral lands. The Indian Removal Act of 1830 formalized this process. The Trail of Tears saw thousands of Native Americans forced from their lands. The Confederacy that Tecumseh had built could not survive without him. His vision, Native American unity and independence, could not be realized without his leadership. Tecumseh died in 1813. His Confederacy collapsed within months. He is recognized as one of the greatest military leaders and political strategists in Native American history, but he has been almost completely erased from American history. In American schools, students learn about Andrew Jackson defeating Native Americans at the Battle of Horseshoe Bend. They learn about Jackson's rise to political power and his presidency. But they rarely, if ever, learn about Tecumseh. They don't learn about his vision of Native American unity. They don't learn about his remarkable leadership. They don't learn about his strategic alliance with Britain. They don't learn that he was one of the greatest military minds of his era. This erasure is not accidental. It's part of the larger American narrative that treats American expansion as inevitable and natural. If Americans learned about Tecumseh, if Americans understood that a brilliant, charismatic leader almost united all Native Americans against expansion, the American narrative would have to change. Americans would have to acknowledge that Native American resistance was real and powerful.
So Tecumseh was forgotten. Tecumseh tried to save our nations. He saw the danger. He tried to unite us. He died trying. And America forgot him. America does not want to remember a Native American hero. America prefers to remember Native American defeat and passivity. So Tecumseh was erased. In recent decades, there has been a recovery of Tecumseh's story. Historians have written about him. Native Americans have honored his memory. Some Native Americans have named their children after him. But in the broader American consciousness, Tecumseh remains forgotten. Who was Tecumseh? What made him different from other Native American leaders? First, he was a skilled warrior. From his youth, Tecumseh was known as a fearless, skilled fighter. He participated in raids and battles. He proved himself in combat. He had the respect of warriors. Second, he was an intelligent strategist. Tecumseh didn't just fight battles. He understood warfare. He understood politics. He understood diplomacy. He could plan campaigns. He could coordinate with other leaders. Tecumseh had a mind for strategy. He understood the larger picture. He knew what had to be done. He could plan for the future. He was not just a war leader, but a political strategist. Third, he was a visionary. Unlike other Native American leaders who fought to preserve their own tribe or region, Tecumseh imagined something larger, a unified Native American nation spanning the continent. This was unprecedented. This was revolutionary. Fourth, he was a charismatic speaker. Accounts from people who heard Tecumseh speak describe him as eloquent, powerful, moving. He could inspire warriors. He could convince leaders. He could make people believe in his vision.
Listen to Tecumseh speak. His voice carries conviction. His words carry truth. He speaks as if the spirits themselves are speaking through him. When he finishes, you want to follow him. You want to believe in his vision. You want to fight for his cause. Fifth, he was a man of principle. Tecumseh had a vision, and he remained committed to it even when it became difficult. He didn't abandon his Confederacy when things got hard. He didn't compromise his principles for personal gain. These qualities, warrior skill, strategic intelligence, visionary thinking, charismatic leadership, and principled commitment, made Tecumseh extraordinary. One of history's most fascinating what-if questions is, what if Tecumseh had succeeded? What if he had maintained the Confederacy beyond the War of 1812? What if he had survived the Battle of the Thames? What if he had continued to lead unified Native American resistance? Let's imagine this alternative history. If Tecumseh had survived and maintained his Confederacy, first, westward expansion would likely have been slower. American settlers couldn't simply push westward unopposed if they faced a powerful unified Native American Confederation. Expansion would have been more costly, more conflicts, more resistance.
Second, Native American nations might have preserved more of their lands. If Tecumseh's Confederacy had persisted and remained powerful, Native American tribes might have negotiated from a position of strength. They might have created a genuine independent Native American nation or autonomous region west of the Mississippi River. Third, the Trail of Tears might never have happened. The forced removal of Cherokee, Creek, and other tribes in the 1830s, 1840s occurred because these tribes had been defeated militarily and had no power to resist removal. If a powerful confederacy had existed, removal might have been impossible. Fourth, Native American nations might still exist today as quasi-sovereign entities. Instead of being confined to small reservations, Native American nations might exist as genuine independent or semi-independent nations within North America. Of course, this is all speculation. We can't know what might have happened, but the counterfactual is worth considering. It shows that history is not inevitable, that different outcomes were possible, that Tecumseh's failure was not predestined. Tecumseh came remarkably close to accomplishing something unprecedented, the unification of dozens of Native American tribes. If he had succeeded, if he had lived longer, if the War of 1812 had gone differently, history might have been dramatically different. The possibility existed. The chance was real. It didn't happen, but it could have.
Tecumseh died nearly 210 years ago. His Confederacy lasted less than a decade. His vision of Native American unity was not realized. And yet, his legacy endures. Not in mainstream American consciousness, which has largely forgotten him, but in the memory of Native American peoples who have never forgotten him. Tecumseh is remembered among Native Americans as a hero, as a leader who tried to save his people, as a visionary who understood what was necessary for survival. He is remembered as a man who failed, but who failed while trying to do something great, who failed while resisting impossible odds, who failed while fighting for the independence and sovereignty of his people. Tecumseh is a hero to our people. He tried to unite us. He tried to save our nations. He died fighting. We remember him. We honor him. Even though America forgot him, we remember. His spirit lives on in our peoples. His vision lives on. His memory lives on. In recent decades, historians have also recovered Tecumseh's story. Academic historians have written extensively about him. They recognize him as one of the most important figures in North American history. They recognize that Tecumseh was not just a Native American chief or warrior. He was a statesman. He was a strategist. He was a visionary leader whose vision nearly reshaped North American history.
Some cities and towns have named institutions after Tecumseh. Some Native American communities have named children after him. Some contemporary Native American leaders cite him as inspiration. But in mainstream American consciousness, Tecumseh remains largely forgotten. Most Americans have never heard of him. Most American school children don't learn about him. And this is a tragedy, not just for Native American history, but for American history as a whole. Why should we remember Tecumseh today? First, because his story is true and important. Tecumseh was one of the greatest leaders in North American history. His vision was unprecedented. His leadership was remarkable. His story deserves to be told and remembered. Second, because Tecumseh's story challenges the American narrative of inevitable progress. American history is often told as a story of inevitable expansion, inevitable development, inevitable American triumph. But Tecumseh's story shows that other outcomes were possible, that powerful resistance was possible, that the Native American peoples were not passive victims, but active resistors with their own strategies and visions.
Tecumseh's story matters because it shows that history is not inevitable, that powerful leaders can challenge the dominant powers, that resistance is possible, that alternative outcomes were possible. This is important for understanding American history correctly. Third, Tecumseh's story matters because it speaks to the ongoing struggle of indigenous peoples. Tecumseh fought for sovereignty and independence. He fought for the right of Native American nations to control their own destiny. These are struggles that continue today. Native American communities continue to fight for sovereignty, for recognition, for the right to preserve their cultures and traditions. Tecumseh's example, his vision, his courage, his refusal to accept inevitable defeat, speaks to these contemporary struggles. Fourth, Tecumseh's story teaches important lessons about leadership. He showed that a single visionary leader could attempt to accomplish something extraordinary, that charisma and principle and strategic thinking could inspire people, that one person could nearly reshape history.
Tecumseh died in 1813. More than 200 years have passed. His Confederacy collapsed within months of his death. His vision of unified Native American independence was not realized. But his extraordinary attempt to accomplish something that had never been accomplished before, remains one of the most important moments in North American history. Tecumseh was a warrior. He was a strategist. He was a visionary. He was a leader. He came closer to uniting all Native American peoples than any leader before or since. He died fighting for his vision. He died on the battlefield, trying to preserve his people's independence and sovereignty. We remember him. We honor him. We recognize him as one of the great leaders of his time, not just among Native Americans, but among all peoples. Tecumseh is the forgotten general, but among those who know his story, he is remembered as one of the greatest leaders North America has ever seen. Thank you for watching Nostalgia History Stories. We've explored the remarkable life and legacy of Tecumseh, a man who tried to reshape history. Subscribe for more stories of forgotten heroes who changed our world.